Have you ever wondered what it feels like to have everything in the world, money, power, luxury, and still spend your birthday completely alone? Imagine sitting in a beautifully decorated ballroom, surrounded by hundreds of empty chairs, waiting for people who promised they would come. 1 hour passes. Another. Not a single guest walks through the door. Now imagine that the only person who finally arrives isn't a billionaire, a famous celebrity, or a business partner. It's a struggling single father carrying a homemade birthday cake that cost less than $10. What happened next changed both of their lives forever. Before we begin, take 1 second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Every like helps us bring you more unforgettable stories of hope, kindness, and second chances. Now, let's begin. The crystal chandeliers sparkled across the ceiling of the Grand Royal Hotel. Every table was covered in white roses imported from France. The finest chefs in the city had spent 3 days preparing an unforgettable birthday feast. A live orchestra quietly played soft piano music while dozens of waiters stood perfectly still. Everything was ready. Everything. Except the guests. At the center of the ballroom sat 54-year-old Adrian Lawson. Once known as the most feared CEO in the country, Adrian had built Lawson Global Industries from a tiny warehouse into one of the largest technology companies in the world. Magazine covers had called him the Iron King. Employees admired him. Competitors feared him. Investors worshipped him. But none of those titles mattered anymore. 2 years earlier, a devastating helicopter crash had left Adrian permanently paralyzed from the chest down. Doctors had saved his life. They could not save his ability to walk. Since then, board members slowly took over the company. Business partners stopped calling. Friends became too busy. Even distant relatives disappeared after learning Adrian had transferred most of his fortune into charitable foundations instead of leaving it available for inheritance. Tonight was supposed to be different. His assistant had personally sent over 500 invitations. Politicians had promised to attend. Executives had confirmed. Celebrities had accepted. Every RSVP looked perfect. Yet the ballroom remained painfully silent. Adrian glanced toward the entrance every few seconds. Perhaps traffic was terrible. Perhaps everyone was simply running late. His loyal housekeeper, Mrs. Eleanor Brooks, forced a smile. "They'll come, sir." Adrian smiled back politely. "I hope you're right." Another 30 minutes passed. Still nobody. The orchestra quietly stopped playing. The musicians looked at each other awkwardly. An waiter checked his watch. Another secretly wiped tears from his eyes. Everyone understood what was happening. Nobody was coming. Adrian slowly lowered his eyes toward the birthday cake standing almost 4 feet tall. 5 heirs. Thousands of dollars. Golden decorations. His own smiling portrait made from edible sugar. It suddenly looked ridiculous. His phone remained silent. No calls. No messages. No apologies. Nothing. Mrs. Brooks finally whispered. "Would you like me to bring the cake to your home instead?" Adrian looked across hundreds of empty chairs. "No." He paused. "Let's wait just a little longer." Outside the hotel, rain began falling. Across town, 32-year-old Daniel Carter hurried along the sidewalk holding his 7-year-old daughter Lily's tiny hand. Daniel worked 2 jobs. During the day he repaired appliances. At night he drove food deliveries. Ever since his wife Emma died from cancer 4 years ago, every single day had become a battle. Bills. School fees. Rent. Groceries. There was never enough money. Still, Daniel had made one promise to Emma before she passed away. No matter how hard life gets, don't let Lily lose her belief that kindness changes people. He had never forgotten those words. As father and daughter walked past the Grand Royal Hotel, Lily suddenly stopped. "Daddy." Daniel looked down. "What is it?" She pointed through the giant glass windows. "Why is that man all alone?" Daniel looked inside. He noticed the beautifully dressed elderly man sitting alone in a wheelchair beside an enormous birthday cake. No guests. No family. Nobody. Daniel frowned. Maybe they're still coming. But Lily continued staring. He looks sad. Children notice things adults ignore. Daniel tried walking away. Yet something felt wrong. Very wrong. Lily gently tugged his sleeve. "Daddy." "Yes?" "Can nobody come to his birthday?" Daniel sighed. "I don't know." She remained silent for several seconds before saying something that reminded him so much of Emma. "If everyone forgot him, maybe we shouldn't." Daniel looked at his nearly empty wallet. He had exactly $23 until payday. They still needed breakfast tomorrow. Yet he looked back through the window. The lonely man hadn't moved. The birthday candles had already melted. Daniel made a decision that would change both of their lives forever. He smiled at Lily. "Let's buy him a cake." Lily's eyes widened. "But he already has one." Daniel laughed softly. "Not a cake. A birthday that's real." The two hurried to the small neighborhood bakery nearby. Using almost every dollar he had, Daniel bought a tiny chocolate cake decorated with uneven white frosting. The baker apologized. "I'm sorry, it's not perfect." Daniel smiled. "It doesn't need to be." Lily carefully wrote 3 words on top using pink icing. "You matter always." Half an hour later. The hotel staff looked toward the entrance as the large glass doors slowly opened. Everyone expected another wealthy executive. Instead, a tired father wearing worn-out work boots stepped inside holding a tiny homemade cake. Beside him walked a little girl carrying a single balloon. The ballroom became completely silent. Daniel nervously approached Adrian's table. "I'm sorry to interrupt." Adrian looked up. "I don't believe we've met." Daniel shook his head. "No, sir. I was just walking by." Lily stepped forward. "Happy birthday." She offered him the little cake with both hands. For several seconds, Adrian simply stared. Nobody had ever handed him something made with such obvious love. Not during all his years as CEO. Not during billion-dollar celebrations. Not even when his company reached global success. His eyes filled with tears. The little words written in crooked icing seemed more valuable than every luxury decoration surrounding him. "You matter always." For the first time in years, someone made Adrian feel exactly that. He mattered. Not because he was rich. Not because he was famous. Simply because he was human. Adrian struggled to speak. Finally he whispered. Would you have dinner with me?" Daniel looked embarrassed. "We're not dressed for a place like this." Mrs. Brooks immediately interrupted. "You are exactly dressed for the company we need tonight." The orchestra quietly picked up their instruments again. Soft music filled the ballroom. The chefs served dinner. The waiters smiled for the first time that evening. The 3 strangers laughed together like old friends. Outside, the rain finally stopped. Inside, something far more valuable than wealth had arrived. Hope. Neither Adrian nor Daniel realized that this unexpected meeting would soon expose shocking betrayals, hidden family secrets, corporate greed, and a life-changing decision that would touch thousands of people. This birthday wasn't the end of Adrian's story. It was only the beginning.